Why do I say we are facing a monster in our lives? This image of the monster comes from ancient writings, and we will look into some of these texts in future episodes. In the world, we are shadowed by a force that has three principal distinctions, three notable features that mark the nature of the beast. In the human world, a monster is circulating, and this image of the monster is chosen because it conveys three different things. First, this negative force is created. The beast is a man-made monster. That is, it is a creature. The word creature means created thing, and it is a creature of man. The most famous story of a man-made monster is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This book is a key exploration of the idea of a monster. In the novel, Victor Frankenstein says that the creature is indeed a man-made monster. I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created. But what was the thing that Frankenstein actually created? On the same page he says, I had worked hard for nearly 2 years for the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. He didn't create the bodies that he stole from tombs. He had to steal them. But in a way, he did create the body he animated, which did not exist before his experiment. It was assembled from the corpses of several different people. He had no desire to create a monster. What he was trying to do was just to discover a way to bring the dead back to life. I thought that if I could bestow animation upon lifeless matter, I might in process of time renew life where death had devoted the body to corruption. He talks about his lofty hopes and the complexity of his task, saying, It was with these feelings that I began the creation of a human being. But what did Frankenstein actually create? If something here was man-made, what was it? Didn't he actually reanimate already created dead flesh? If he created a new being physically, he decided, he says, to make his creation of a gigantic stature, about 8 feet in height. In other words, inhumanly large. In this, it appears that he was indulging showmanship, thinking of the public revelation of his triumph, when a new species would bless me as its creator and source. But if Frankenstein created a new kind of man physically, was this the creation of a human being? Or was it the weirdly continued life of a dead man? And of course the question is, which dead man? The one whose brain was used? Was this a man who was returned to life with new body parts and a bizarre and deformed appearance? In a way, something like a man who had died in a car accident, but was put together again in surgery and was resuscitated, and found his body horribly mangled and strange to him. Mary Shelley does not reflect on this, clearly because it does not suit her purpose. She wants the creature to be a new creation, a new Adam, in relation to a new creator. The creature in her novel has no recollection of any prior life, or even of human language, which he has to learn from scratch. He watches people reading and wonders what they are doing. Yet somehow he has a memory of the Bible. He knows the story of Genesis, paradise, Adam and his creator. Where could this new being have got that knowledge? And as to what this creature was, we could also ask, was this a soulless thing? Just the reanimated matter that a soul had departed from? Is he a raging murderer because of this? This possibility Shelley rules out. In the monster's last speech, it says, My heart was fashioned, by whom we ask? By Victor Frankenstein? No, by its actual maker. My heart was fashioned to be susceptible of love and sympathy. Once my fancy was soothed with dreams of virtue and of enjoyment. Once I falsely hoped to meet with beings who, pardoning my outward form, would love me for the excellent qualities which I was capable of bringing forth. It seems that this monster, this wretch that never gets a name in Shelley's story, was actually a person. Victor Frankenstein did not create this person. It was not he who fashioned the heart to hope and dream. The monstrous thing created by Frankenstein in the novel, Back to the Man-Made Thing, was an appearance and an act. To force upon a dead man an existence of rejection as a repulsive being that even its creator was repelled by and abandoned the instant that being came to life. The creature calls him the author at once of my existence and of its unspeakable torments. Shelley's epigraph to the book is, "Did I request thee, Maker, from my clay to mold me man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me?" This is the man-made thing in Shelley's novel, the creation not of a being, but of something horrible. Man creates the horrible, bringing into existence a horror, the repulsive appearance of a cadaverous-looking creature who suffers a life of rejection by mankind. That is what Frankenstein achieves. Frankenstein created the deformed or monstrous appearance and caused the life in which this condition guaranteed the creature enduring misery. Frankenstein, a man, created the ugliness. He himself reports, "How can I delineate the wretch whom with such infinite pains I had endeavored to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful! Great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of his muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of a pearly whiteness. But these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, his shriveled complexion, and straight black lips." Shelley's narrator, not Frankenstein, but a man who rescues him, encountering the monster for the first time, exclaims, "Never did I behold a vision so horrible as his face, of such loathsome yet appalling hideousness. I shut my eyes involuntarily, and endeavored to recollect what were my duties with regard to this destroyer." The point I am making about man's contribution, which is in Shelley's novel, is lost if you think of Boris Karloff's sympathetic-looking monster. In 1931, the film audience was encouraged to see, made to see, the being capable of being loved. Is this a face that is undeniably repugnant? That was the novel. A creature so hideous that you shut your eyes involuntarily. Frankenstein himself says, "I dreaded to behold this monster, a being whom I myself had formed and endued with life." Later movie versions attempt to be more faithful to the idea in the novel, giving the creature a face that is actually repellent. In the novel, this horror is man's contribution, afflicting a human being with the look of the dead, an appearance like that of a mummy, and then the horrific irony of bringing a person back to life for this treatment. The gift of a life of rejection. But because of what came in the wake of Shelley's novel and took over the name horror for itself, I cannot get my meaning across with the words horror and horrific. What we are talking about is their pre-horror genre meaning, the creation of what we cannot bear to look at, what makes us look away, what is repellent, what is unspeakable. At the dawn of the age of modern advance, people had already begun to fear what scientific discovery might set loose. This is the idea of the modern Prometheus, stealing forces from the gods, as Prometheus stole fire. But in Shelley's novel there is also the idea, a more prominent idea entwined with that one, of not the acquisition of a divine power, but the human creation of horrors. The undeniably repugnant, an unspeakable fate. This is the monstrous thing, and in Shelley's novel it is man-made. This is the beast that predates the modern age. The actual man-made creation. And because of its actual magnitude, it is the product of not one lone madman, but of every human being. It is a far more threatening creation than Frankenstein's lonely wretch. To be created means that the beast, the man-made monster, is given a life of its own. Like a created entity, exactly like Frankenstein's monster, the beast moves in and through society on its own paths. It is given life by the human ways of being that do not participate in the plan for a peaceable world, a world without monsters. Of course, you might be one of those people who likes to cut through metaphors and say literally what this beast is. Well, we could indeed say that it is the effect of human acts upon others. But it is not as simple as that. If you rely on those words, you get less than the metaphor. It is also the effect of things that we do not think of as acts at all. Things that we say. A look that we give, or do not give. Because the beast is caused also by what is not done, what is unleashed by inaction. And we're not talking simply of effects upon others. These things that we do and do not do can immediately harm us. Even thoughts. Not thoughts that just come to us and that we rightly drive away, but thoughts that we do not reject, but instead entertain. This accommodation of thoughts is something very far from actions. Even thoughts can bring on this harm. Even thoughts that we fail to have. It is non-life that creates the monster. For instance, not thinking of another person as a person with a soul, a capacity. The human being that Frankenstein gave life to had this thought of the excellent qualities which I was capable of bringing forth. The story's narrator recognizes that he has failed to have it, failed to think of the creature as he should, as a human being, and he does exactly what is needed not to give life to the beast. I endeavored, he says, to recollect what were my duties with regard to this destroyer. I made myself think the truth, he is saying. But Victor Frankenstein does not have the thought at all, does not have the thought that is due, and this moment without a thought is not empty. It is a moment when the beast stirs, twitches, feels its life. The monster in Mary Shelley's novel is not the hapless wretch who is born of technology, nor is it the creation or product of technology, the unforeseen consequences of means discoverable in physics, electronics, computation. The monster is the spawn of what is done and not done, thought and not thought. The monster is the entirely foreseeable force released by the non-life of human beings. In Mary Shelley's novel, it is the horror unleashed by the behavior of the two protagonists. It is their non-life that creates and then feeds the beast. The image of the monster comes from ancient texts, because the monstrous is a human constant. The beast in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is also that ancient beast, which has very little to do with innovation, but everything to do with non-living, with straying from the way of life. The horrific force we are threatened with, by ourselves, is a man-made freeing of power, released by human non-life. And the lesson that we must learn is the ancient lesson, which we could call more relevant now than ever as a kind of joke. The ancient lesson, which taught the way of life that denies the beast, the way of being that keeps the power flowing where it is positive and life-creating. The beast must not be created.